the law and how it protects women in this kind of situation. How have you been watching the Omotosho trial from the time it began when Cheryl came on and just brought tears to our eyes, and the developments thus far, Advocate Peter Doberman wanting to have the case thrown out of court?
You know what's important is that, and women have been saying this all along, the whole issue of marching as the hashtag Total Shutdown movement, it didn't come out of nowhere. It came out of these experiences that many women have had. And Cheryl is a reminder to all of us that this continues to happen within our justice system. You know, first you have to present to the police, then you have to present to the criminal justice system as a whole, and people are, and women in particular, are feeling violated over and over again. So yes, the law may be there, but in terms of how people are educated within the criminal justice system about issues of women empowerment and gender equality, remember that everybody comes with their own biases around gender, around religion, around culture, and they bring that to the workplace. So they need to be conscientized about issues that pertain to women. So in their own household, they may be heads of their household if it's men taking the cases. As women may also see that they are heads of they are the ones who see men as heads of their households. So when they come and they're at the front desk of either the healthcare system or the police station or the criminal justice, they're bringing that bias. The importance is them being aware of that bias for you to actually be fair in understanding the law, interpreting the law, and passing down judgment, or hearing a case before you pass down judgment. You've got to be aware of your own biases. And what we've seen in the Omotosho case is that there has been more personal bias, and that's the call for the removal of the judge. But actually, it's important that he is aware of what he has done and that he's caused secondary victimization to Cheryl and to many other women.
So the next question I want to ask you, and I want to ask our viewers as well, because we're running a poll on this, asking, now that it's the end of the 16 days of the campaign, what are your thoughts? Is it impactful? 85% of you say not really, and that's quite emphatic, and the rest say yes, it is impactful. Do you think these campaigns make a dent?
It's almost asking, like, does the festive season make a dent to your budget? And everybody would say yes. And so 16 days does. It's a choice, right? So people are choosing for 16 days not to make a dent. Why? Because you have to choose to be aware, to be open, to hear, and to know that violence happens. Some people are saying no because they are perpetrators of violence themselves. And so you might find that the poll will be interesting to say which are the people that are saying no. We also know that it's a campaign, and campaigns are exactly that. They have a start time, they have an end time. They are a time to raise awareness, right? Yeah. So as a country, and we know this, as a country we have not done an impact assessment on it or an evaluation on 16 days, which becomes very critical, which means, you know, in terms of the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation or the Department of Women, that an impact and evaluation needs to be done on the campaign itself. Remember, it's an international campaign because violence against women and children in South Africa in particular, but violence against women is a global issue. So yes, people may find that it doesn't have an impact because they've decided to be deaf to it and they've decided to normalize violence. Yeah. I had somebody who wrote 18 days of action. It's like, no, it's 16. And he's like, 16 days of what? 16 days of... Do you understand? Yeah. So it's people who have literally either chosen to close their eyes to it, remove from it, or simply just shut down.
But also that violence against women and children comes in so many different forms. And you can't pack all of that into 16 days.
Of course you can't. That's why you have to have 365 days of no violence against women and children, but also to bring men on board. You know, it's interesting because we're saying we're bringing men on board, but we'd hope that men would step up. You know, and actually be advocates amongst themselves. And we know, for example, I give an example about having to deal with my own family members, not on violence, but just in terms of their behavior. And yes, I may be older, in terms of the
The
grandchildren.
family is actually taking an emphatic stand against violence against women.
Absolutely.
We need to wrap up our conversation. It's International Human Rights Day, and you giving a talk. Just unpack your talk for us today. What will you be presenting?
Well, a couple of things. One is around women empowerment. In terms of what you're talking about, is that sometimes you have to bring men on board in order for them to actually take the stand and assist and realize they need to step up. Right? 1. 2, it's about economic empowerment. And as you said, violence takes a lot of forms. It's financial, which is why we're talking about economic empowerment. Because if, for example, you agree as a family that one person is going to be a stay-at-home mom or stay-at-home dad, if it's a stay-at-home mom to raise the children because the costs of daycare and other things are expensive, don't let her ask you for money for pads because her period is up. That's a stripping of one's dignity and a form of financial abuse within the household. So if you've agreed on a certain thing, let it be standard that this is what the allowance is, or this is what she needs to do, and that she doesn't have to come to you beckoning for her to continue her duties. The other, obviously we know, is actually negotiation of sex within a marriage or even within couples, and that's important. You know, so it's women's empowerment is in many forms. Financial is one, for them to be full participants within the economy as a whole.
Okay, finally, you're wrapping up the 100 years of Albertina Sisulu and now the Sisulu Foundation. What do we expect to see coming out of
legacy.
2019
legacy.
and
you
going
know
forward?
What? We've learned that if we don't carry the legacy ourselves, this is our heritage, yes, as a family, as grandchildren, and as the next generation, but we claim as South Africans that it's our heritage as well, so we understand that she's considered a mother of the nation, but for us, it's a legacy that we have to continue. So going forward, we're going to see hashtag Masisulu 101, Masisulu 102, Masisulu 103, because as Tim Samazwai says, revolutions die and people forget.
It's been totally awesome talking to you.
Thank you.
Ntsiki Sisulu. Blaine?